YouTubers and podcasters, wherever you're listening to this from.
What up?
What up? We come to you today with a podcast called Work It In. Working it in, haven't quite decided, one of the two.
Work it in, just the tip.
It's going to be a very saucy podcast. No,
Juicy?
not really.
Voice?
And man, if we could make one word illegal, it would definitely be the word moist.
I'm really down with the word moist.
I'm not.
Or up with it.
I'm
actually, better yet, I'm in with it.
Oh my God, where is this podcast going so quickly?
We're working it in.
I actually, for the Untangling Fat Loss ebook that I wrote, I have a whole chapter called Moist Stuff.
Exactly, you're disgusting. See?
It's still a gross word. Anyways, Dean, how are you?
I'm very well, all things considered.
Oh, yeah?
I'm supposed to be sad, but I'm not.
Why is that?
No, it's just, I suppose we always give a bit of an update, but for podcast upon podcast, I was telling people about my prep.
Yes.
And I'm going to continue to do it, except this time I'm going to tell them it's cancelled. I gave up, I quit, I couldn't handle it.
That's not true.
I'm hungry. No, we for those listening in Australia, you would know, and that follow the bodybuilding industry, you would know that all shows were cancelled for the end of this year. For those that are listening in other parts of the world, you now know that all shows are cancelled for the rest of the, unfortunately, due to COVID. So,
and the reason being that they were cancelled?
New South Wales have been in lockdown and heavy restricted lockdown for like 10 weeks.
Melbourne too, right?
And yeah, but they don't like they're going to get out for at least another month.
Who, Melbourne or New South Wales?
New South Wales, at least. I think they've just had it extended for a month.
Yeah.
So they're going to be like, fuck, man, like 3.5 months deep. So they can't travel. So they couldn't do a national show. And then Melbourne went into lockdown after a week of being out of lockdown. And they've been in it now for another 4 weeks.
What a tease.
And they also wouldn't be allowed to travel. So basically like two of the three major states where we get bodybuilders from in Australia.
Couldn't travel to a comp.
Facility. Yeah. Couldn't travel, so they just canned them.
But they could have had state shows in Perth and Queensland.
Yeah, I would imagine that they're probably... So they did a questionnaire as to like who was interested to compete. And I'm going to guess that a bunch of people in different states were like, I'm not going to risk nationals not being on, and probably pulled the pin, which means the state shows are too small to make money.
I'm going to guess that bodybuilding shows are still a money-making business.
That's what I just said.
Because, did you?
I just said that they probably pulled them because there wouldn't be enough competitors in the state shows to make
Right. No, but the point I was making is they would make a big chunk of their money from entry tickets from people watching in the audience. And because bodybuilding shows are indoor events, they would have huge restrictions on the amount of people that are able to watch, aka pay for an entry ticket. And it probably doesn't outweigh their expenses then.
Also that too, yeah. So all encompassing, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, shows are cancelled.
That's a real shame. You were only 7 weeks out.
7 weeks out from the first show, 11 from the second, and they've moved the season A shows. So we have 2 seasons in Australia, A and B. A at the start of the year, B at the end of the year. Surprise.
Very confusing.
And surprisingly, on a forum with Joe, the British guys had no idea what the fuck I was talking about.
What do they call their seasons?
B. They just start calling them shows.
What do you think?
Because they have mid-years as well, whereas we don't really have mid-year shows.
Oh,
so they just say like, the show's at the start of the year and
the middle of the year,
and then the end of the year. Yeah.
Obviously, they would have an A, B, and C season. Idiots.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know what I was saying. But, season A has been moved back at least a month compared to normal. So
okay.
Yeah.
What
about you? What's going on? What's news?
What's news with me? Well, as you know, Dean, I'm not sure if I think I've mentioned it on the podcast before. I've moved away after years and years of working with people one-on-one. I've moved away from that, and I'm still doing consultations and writing books and blogs and columns and all that stuff, but I'm moving into course education. And we just wrapped up, or by the time this gets released, it would have wrapped up like 2 or 3 weeks ago. The first round of Cut, Gain, Maintain, the e-course. And I had a number in mind of how many students I wanted for this course. And we doubled it, which is so great. And I loved the interaction. We had an assessment portion of the course where people were able to receive a certificate of completion at the end. And heaps of people engaged with that and received their certificate. There's so many lessons I learned for things that I might be able to express more clearly next time. I'm looking forward to receiving feedback from my students on what they found really clear. So that's really exciting. That wrapped up, and I'm looking forward to going through another round of this course with a new round of students before the end of the year. I'm thinking November 1, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, help people come in to get that diet bod for
summer
bod, sorry.
diet bod.
Do you feel super mature calling, you say, my students?
Not really, because I've said my clients since I was 18. So not really.
Yeah, but when I think of a student, I think of it as a professor, and when I think of a professor, I think of like a dude who looks like Albert Einstein.
I hear, but no, because a huge part of my role as a coach is an educator. So I've always felt like my clients are kind of my students.
Well, fine. Just let this podcast discussion fall flat.
Dean. So sorry to disappoint you. I mean, I did feel weird calling the black belts at jiu-jitsu professor, because that was always reserved for my university professors. Do you have a PhD? No, you don't.
Well, they do in jits, really. It's been years. Probably studied for longer than the
but
professors.
They don't actually study. Like, they've choked a lot. I'm not saying they don't deserve the title. Like, obviously black belts work super hard and they do it for a long period of time.
But is physical practice of technique not a form of study? It's just that it's
yeah.
And like, if they watch video,
yeah, sure. They're like they're studying like the movement and sure, but they're not being assessed on anything. They haven't. Well, I guess they've passed things by their gradings and anyway.
It sounds like we're coming full circle to you agreeing that they're professors.
I don't know, Dean.
And I mean, if you don't, they'll probably check you out. So you probably should.
I agree. I'm so sorry. So yeah, that's what's happening with me. That's what's happening with you.
And that's what's happening with Flex pretty much too.
But we don't know whether you'll be competing in Australia or the UK in season 8 next year. Hey.
No, it'll no.
All right. So wrap up. Quick summary for those of you that don't follow our personal social media, and I'm not even sure how much of it we've shared. Our dog Ruben was already in palliative care for his kidney failure. What?
It's just funny calling it palliative care.
Oh.
It is true.
That's so funny. Our dog's dying. Why is that weird?
I just never thought of palliative care because he's at home. He's not actually in palliative. But
okay. Anyways, and he's 15, so we already knew his days were limited. And then recently I was like, oh, something's going on with his wee. Is there blood in there? So I took him to the vets. Long story short, he has bladder cancer, which is absolutely devastating. And because he's so old, the vets have suggested that we don't treat it surgically or like with chemo or anything like that, because of his age, and he probably won't survive a surgery and all of that stuff. So we know that his days are extra limited. And so if Ruben, our dog, passes away soon, we'll go to the UK.
Yeah, so like, again, like part of our life journey has been that we've always wanted to live off the laptops and spend 3 months in different countries at a time around the world and continue doing what we're doing, including podcasts.
Yeah.
So, but it's always been dependent on when we didn't have Ruben, obviously.
Yeah.
Can't do that with Mr. Rube Dog. So depending on when he passes and also when the availability of semi-free travel out of Australia becomes available, depending on what like exemptions we require in that to leave, our intention is to shoot off overseas somewhere. And
that somewhere is going to be the UK, because that's where Dean wants to do his competitions. Because Dean has been working really, because a lot of people, kind of live this a semi-comfortable bodybuilding lifestyle and then go really hard 16 weeks before the competition. Dean's been going really hard for at least a year, maybe longer, a year and a half.
56th week check-in this week.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
And so it was a real shame for these comps to be cancelled, because this has been like felt like a really long slog. And it
was going to be a bit of a last hurrah. Like I would compete in a new division.
Hang up the boots.
Ruben wouldn't be around anymore. We'd be able to travel. I wouldn't have to worry about bodybuilding because that's sort of set and done.
You'd still train. You just wouldn't be competitive.
Yeah. Just for me to be competitive in the under 100, it requires a significant amount of food and a lot of training. And then there's the supplementation to consider as well. And doing that while traveling is difficult. So
yeah. So you're going to hang up the boots. So it's a real shame that this was cancelled, because now we might be traveling while Ruben has gone to dog heaven. Definitely don't believe in heaven. Definitely do believe in dog heaven. Which is why the UK will probably work out. But if Ruben hangs on longer than anyone's expecting, we're thinking like 100 days. Then that's what we're doing. If Ruben hangs on longer, you'll do Australian competitions.
Yeah, there's really 3 options. Option 1 is if Ruben passed pre-Christmas and we were allowed overseas,
we'd go then.
Then we would potentially go then, or we would do like Winnebago around Australia. Right?
Oh yeah.
Option 2 would be that if he passes early in the year, we might just go straight to the UK and just do the UK shows only. If he's still hanging 10 around like March, April, then we'll probably do the Australian show and then shoot off and do the UK show if he's not around. If he's around, then I'll just do the Australian show.
Look,
so many options.
It's all dependent on what Ruben wants to do. Dean, actually, speaking of Ruben, before we actually get to the content of this podcast, had a really creative idea. Dean, look, is not the most creative guy. Definitely not a bone of spontaneity in him. But he just thought...
Not even a hair.
You tell the listeners, Dean, what you thought of.
Look, I don't know if this was... So most of the time, during contest preps, there's this... I don't even know what the phenomena is called. There is a name for it, but I forget it, whereby you're so deprived of excitement all the time because you food and your low body fat and all the rest of it, is that a lot of people seek fleeting happiness and that sort of dopamine surge by buying lots of shit. Whether they're buying delicious foods that they can't eat that makes them feel good momentarily, or they're buying
buying it for like later to eat
or
after.
Fucking one of Joe's coaches bought a Porsche. Two of them bought a Porsche.
Did they?
Yeah. One of them legitimately loves cars though and should have. Okay. But anyway, I was like, I'm a bit jealous of Liz's mustache tattoo. I think it's quite fun.
I have a mustache tattooed on the inside of my index finger, like a child. It's quite fun.
And I was like, good on Liz for being spontaneous. I was going to say spontaneous, but I fucked it up.
Yes.
I should do that a little bit more. I was like, maybe I feel like I'll get my first tattoo.
Did I encourage it? Did I?
There was a little bit of that, but there was also maybe I think I might have been looking for some of this fleeting excitement, right?
Okay.
And then I thought, actually, I think I actually legitimately want to. I always loved tattoos. I just never known what I wanted.
Okay.
And then I said to you, do you want to get like a bit of a funny small tattoo? And then we said, maybe we should get one for Ruben. And I said, well, I don't really want a typical dog tattoo that everyone gets. Let's get something funny like a Reuben sandwich.
His name is Ruben.
For those that are on YouTube, I got a Reuben sandwich tattooed on my hand, and Liz got the same Reuben sandwich tattooed on her elbow.
The back of
her tricep, realistically.
Yeah.
So here's me to YouTube giving you a thumbs up.
Okay, YouTube, look closer.
Eventually, so this is the thing, right? So it's a sandwich with
gherkin
cheese
on top.
Yeah, but the gherkin eventually is going to look like a poo. It's going to be a poo with a toothpick in it, but I'm okay with it, Anyway, I love this thing because every time I walk Reuben and I look down on my left hand, there's me, his lead, and then my Reubens.
Your Reuben sandwich.
Every time I eat it, and I realize that when I talk to people,
eat what?
Every time I eat, I see it on my hand. And every time I talk to people on consults, I stroke my beard with my left hand, I've noticed.
Your left beard?
Yeah, my left beard. So my Reuben hand is always facing forward. So I get constant reminders of it, which I think is awesome.
I think that's beautiful, Dean. I loved the idea. We actually rocked up to the tattoo artist being like, yeah, we want a Reuben sandwich tattoo. Is that cool? Do you have like an image of what you want? And we're like, no.
Like Google it, bro.
So we just Googled it on the spot, and we ended up using the sandwich emoji as the main inspiration
for the bread,
for the ball, like for the angle and the shape and everything. And he just added more meat in the middle and chucked a poo gherkin on top.
I wanted a color one so I could get a big juicy red Reuben, but
it wasn't possible.
It wasn't possible because it's too small. And then we had our first Reuben. No, I didn't. Liz had her first Reuben sandwich on the weekend, and she loved it.
It was great.
Delicious.
Now, before we bore everyone. Because I think maybe we care most about our travel and tattoos.
People love food.
We'll get into the actual meat and veg of today.
So we're going to slip it in, was it?
We're going to work it in. Maybe we should call it slip it in. Should we call the podcast how to slip it in?
No, work it in. I like work it in.
Okay.
Well, you've already started listening to this podcast. If we went for slip it in, give us a thumbs up, share it. If we went for work it in, tell us if we should have used slip it in.
Give us a thumbs down. Tag us in it with a thumbs
down.
Not
a 5-star review, of course.
Okay, so today's podcast about slipping it in, working it in, whatever we're going for. Now, there's a lot of things that we need to consider when we have physique goals, whether that's building muscle or losing fat or, regaining health, feeling more energetic. We need to consider various elements within nutrition. We need to consider various elements within movement, and recovery is really important as well. And we all have busy lives and current routines and work, maybe kids or friends or people who rely on us, maybe study, pulling us in all sorts of directions. So how do we add these things on top of our already busy lives? It's very difficult to do. So instead, what we're suggesting is instead of adding it on top, we work it into our lives. And we wanted to split these up into 3 categories and just make it really clear the lowest hanging fruits for most people. Obviously, what you need is different to what I need, but most people, for whatever their goal is, require within nutrition a calorie controlled diet. If you're trying to gain weight, it's a calorie surplus, more than you need to maintain. If you need fat loss, a calorie control diet will mean a calorie deficit. We also require sufficient protein, whether you're trying to cut, gain, or maintain. That's important in every phase. And then, as well as calorie control, sufficient protein, we also need a sufficient amount of plant food. Going off Australian government guidelines, the 5 and 2, 5 serves of veg, we can round that up to 400 grams of veg a day, and 2 serves of fruit, we can round that to, well, it's not really rounded, is it? It's exactly 300 grams of fruit. If we're talking fresh or frozen, if we're talking, dried fruit, 30 grams is a serve. If we're talking 100% fruit juice, 125 mils is a serve. But anyways, just talking about fresh or frozen fruit, 400 veg, 300 fruit. So we'll talk about
these are sort of minimum expected requirements of all individuals, regardless if they're trying to cut, gain, or maintain, that we need to be able to work into their daily habits.
Calorie control, exactly. Calorie control, sufficient protein, and enough fruit and veg. And that is because, fiber is really important, and that comes from plant food, plants being fruit and veg. There's other types of plant food as well. We also need micronutrients. And, that's very dense in fruit and veg. So they also are low in energy density or low in calories. So they help keep us fuller for longer for fewer calories. So there's lots of reasons why we'd want to eat fruit and veg. We'll talk about movement and recovery later, but would you agree they're the 3 main components people need to focus on?
Yeah. Protein, calories,
nutrients.
Micronutrients specifically in this instance. Absolutely. Regardless of where they're at. And they become potentially like either more important or increasingly more difficult to get in depending on the cut, gain, maintain approach. So like sometimes people may complain about micronutrients being more difficult to get in because the calorie density of a diet in a surplus might be like something that they're working on. E.g. they haven't eaten so much food, they have to take out fruits and vegetables because the density of them is so low. But we're going to have some ways to work that in. And then vice versa, people who are just like, I've got a busy lifestyle, how do I get it in? We're going to figure out how to work them into. Yeah,
exactly. All right. So keeping a calorie controlled diet, we're just talking about ways to work that into your existing life. Maybe you're super busy and you're buying food out all the time, or you just kind of like throw something together in the morning. So the things that Dean and I find really helps us stay on top of that and just work calorie control into our diet is routine and preparation. So I just have toast and coffee in the morning. I don't really start eating until 10, then 2, then 4, then 7. I have 4 meals a day, give or take half an hour. It might be 9:30 because I'm absolutely starving by 8. It might be 10:30, something like that, because a consultation call went overtime or something. So there's a bit of wiggle room, but generally speaking, I just stick to a regular routine. I know when I'm going to eat. It makes it easier. I don't have to think as much. There's no decision fatigue. Both of us stay very prepared with our food. It doesn't mean that absolutely everything is prepared in advance, but rather there's always fruit in the fridge that we can go and grab, or there's 3 different types of meat and we can just decide on the spot which one we want to use based off what we feel like.
Or there's almost always at least one of them cooked. It's very, and then if we don't, we'll have something like eggs available all way. So like I think the greatest barrier to entry for people to make good health-centric food choices, especially around protein, is that it's a time
it's a time sink.
Yeah, it is a time sink to cook up meat. To clean it, to prep it.
And it's not shelf stable usually. Like carbs, you can buy some crackers or there's or a packet rice.
Yeah, but the work it in here on the protein is to at least have one protein cooked at all times.
Yeah.
And then to have some available proteins that aren't so much of a time sink. So this could be something like
jerky, high protein yogurt,
low-fat ham, whey protein.
Yeah. So protein powder, we don't think of as a supplement. We think of protein powder as a food source.
It's also a great opportunity to make a protein meal that is typically difficult to get protein in if you don't have the time. So
like protein pancakes?
Yeah, like most people don't want to make omelets every morning, and they think like, what else can I eat for breakfast? You're like, well, you could have chicken, and they're like, I can't have chicken for breakfast.
I just remembered this. You have chicken for breakfast?
I do, because I like meat at all times. But most people, I would say, have been conditioned to not accept meat as a breakfast item,
except ham,
except for bacon and eggs, of which are calorically quite dense. So in a calorie controlled environment, maybe not the greatest choice for some people.
Unless you're going egg whites. Yeah. So one thing I used to do for breakfast when I was having protein powder first thing in the morning was, you're going to laugh at this. You would probably use some fancy shot of coffee, but I just did a teaspoon of instant coffee with a scoop of vanilla protein powder, a bunch of ice, or sometimes I would use frozen banana instead, and water, and blend it up, and it makes just like an iced coffee.
Yeah.
And the protein powder is like this sweet vanilla taste with the coffee, sometimes the banana included, or swap that out for frozen strawberry, something.
Yeah,
like
banana
that.
and coffee definitely was good.
Man, it was so delicious.
I think in the research actually refer to these as opportunities to feed. I think I've heard someone talk about that in this industry.
I'm not familiar with that.
And it's basically that when there's an opportunity for you to feed, take protein and do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know, like we've talked about here, is that protein, calorie control are two primary things we're looking here outside of micronutrients. So most people don't have the opportunity to feed for a long period of time or prep for a long period of time in the morning because they are busy. So if you have that opportunity to feed, take an option that you can work in, like a protein powder. Do a protein coffee. Perfect choice.
Yeah.
Or the night before, if you can have a little bit more routine, that might be like the protein oats.
Yeah.
Or it might be like the high protein yogurt mixed with a little bit of whey protein. You know,
there's
so many things that you can take for an opportunity to feed in the morning when otherwise you would typically not go for protein.
I quite like to make, I have a recipe for it in the Untangling Fat Loss ebook, breakfast egg muffins. So they keep in the fridge for a few days. They're delicious. It's mainly egg whites and like peas and zucchini, maybe some low fat cheese, some ham, bake it in the oven in muffin tins, and then just whack that in the microwave in the morning.
And another way to work it in is
Bob's your uncle.
Portion control. You know, that's the other great way to work in things like this, is that you've got portion controlled protein feedings here.
Oh, right.
You know,
yeah.
As opposed to like sitting there, like, again, most people get the bowl out, they fill the bowl with yogurt. They're like, you really need a whole bowl.
Yeah.
You know, so like this is another smart way to do it, is that to work in, say, protein feedings that are otherwise like difficult to manage in ways, like maybe we might use, say, a cup or a jar, a mason jar or something for like the protein oats, so it's not so big.
Or stuff it full of berries.
Yeah. Or you're going to do the muffin protein veggies, veggie dominant.
Yeah, heaps of shredded zucchini, maybe some capsicum, things like that. Yeah, so the point is you're going to eat breakfast anyways, or you're going to eat at some point in the day. You may as well work some protein into it. It's going to support your goals, help you stay fuller for longer, help you either maintain lean mass if you're in a cut, or build lean mass if you're in a gain, or maintain lean mass if you're in a maintenance phase. So work it in, just work some protein in, be prepared, be selective with what you choose. Now, part of making good nutrition easy as well for us is environment design. So that means that successful people spend less time in tempting situations. And I have some friends that are like, wow, you're so good. You must have really strong willpower. Like, I don't know, maybe, but I'm just not tempted that often because I don't keep chips in front of me. It's not the first thing I see when I go into the kitchen. I can say no to ice cream if I want to, but I prefer not to keep ice cream in the house because it just...
In a tub format, at least.
In a tub, yeah, exactly. We've got like single serve ones that doesn't tempt me as much.
Or even if it does, it's controlled.
Yeah, that's
true. You
true.
have to forcibly open 2 packets to blow the bank.
Yeah, totally. So when I open the fridge, what I see is, you know, apples and veggie sticks that I've cut up previously, some low calorie dips, the meat that we've prepared, you know, those breakfast protein muffins. So I don't have things in my environment that are constantly triggering me to eat this chocolate, eat these chips, eat these ice creams. I don't have to use willpower all the time because we've set up our environment to be conducive to our goals.
Yeah, the other thing too, like this is taking it to another level, but if you have somewhat of an organized fridge where it says, you know, like not where it says, but where it's dedicated areas to dedicated things. So like we have the crispers down the bottom that are obviously fruits and vegetables. Most of the time, our first shelf has got like pre-prepared meals in containers. The second shelf has meats that can be cooked. Yeah. And then the top shelves are like condiments and stuff like that.
Reuben's food.
You know, so like if you know, like, oh, I'm quite hungry and I want to work in, you know, a calorie controlled approach, what can I have? If you know the crisper is full of particular things that are not energy dense, that are micronutrient dense, you still want to hit your 5 and 2 and control your calories. It just means that you can go to that fridge. It's already worked into your thought process. That's another way you can even just work this in. It's just having some organization to your pantry and to your fridges.
Yeah, totally.
Environment design. It's a wonderful thing.
We did a whole episode on environment design. Go and check that out. Did we call it environment design? I think we might have.
I'm not sure.
I think we did.
What other ways do we work this in? Like, we're always on the lookout for like low cal, options to put in our fridge, or to swap out current higher calorie options?
Yeah, like if a new barbecue sauce comes out, I like to think of sauces as 1 calorie per meal is considered, in my mind, a low calorie sauce.
Mm-hmm.
I love teriyaki, but they typically seem to be really dense in calories, which is perfectly fine for you, Dean, because you have much higher calorie needs than me. But for me, my calorie needs are, well, I feel like are pretty low, especially if I'm in a cut. So yeah, I'm looking for sauces that are 1 calorie per meal. So for 100 mils, 100 calories or less. I also make sure that the way I think about food isn't encouraging feelings of hyper restriction, where I'm kind of setting up in my mind that this food is good and this food is bad, and I'm so restricted, and then I kind of like I'm let off the leash and I have these cheats. So rather, what I do is set myself an amount of discretionary calories every day. It might, depending on what phase I'm in, on average, call it 300 calories. Might have 100 calories worth of something on top of my meals and regular fruit snacks, whatever.
Something chocolate.
After something, aka chocolate, after lunch, and then I might have 200 calories worth of whatever I feel like at the end of the day for dessert.
Mm-hmm.
Usually some sort of granola.
Yeah, they're usually like a non-macronutrient specific snack.
Oh, it's just, I can spend them on all fats if I want, or all carbs if they don't have to be.
Or mayonnaise.
I probably wouldn't eat just mayonnaise.
Except for Kewpie mayonnaise.
But I could. Kewpie's pretty good.
But it is true. Like, again, you like working this in, you look in our fridge, most of our sauces and condiments are all very low calories. We're talking mustards and, sugar-reduced barbecue sauces. Yeah. Ajvar, for anyone who's familiar with that, or Ivar, which is like a capsicum.
Even just like lemon juice, balsamic vinegar.
Yeah, all great options. Using spray oils even for cooking as opposed to olive oils out of the jar.
Yeah.
There's so many ways that you can manipulate your environment and your availability for choices that help you work in a lower calorie environment if you need to.
Yeah. So if you are someone, just before we move on to movement, if you are someone who feels like, well, I don't know how to get my calories lower and I am eating out all the time, maybe working on setting up a better routine and being more prepared with your food is going to be really helpful. And having delicious lower calorie or higher calorie, depending on what your needs are, options in your pantry, in your fridge, and removing trigger foods from your eyesight. So thinking about your environment design and how you can control your surroundings to help you eat in a way that aligns with your goals, where you're not having to use your willpower all the time.
Yeah. I also think setting up your thought process around how you put a meal together is probably a good idea.
How so?
Like if you're looking for a calorie controlled environment whereby you need to keep calories lower, you should always be opting to think, what protein do I require in this meal? What vegetables will I add? Then do I need additional?
Yeah.
So you want to set up that protein plus 5 and 2 approach as your primary objective. If you're in the opposite end of the spectrum though, and you're trying to work vegetables and fruits into your diet, but you're so full from eating so many calories, it's not an excuse not to get them in, because we still require them. Think about ways to get them into your diet that you don't notice them. So like
wilt some spinach.
Two great ones. I think it's a good one. It was wilting spinach as a vegetable. You can even put spinach in like fruit juice shakes, and then you can obviously put your fruits in there. Another great one is to bake a bunch of vegetables and blend them with passata or tinned tomatoes to make them as sauces to go on top of pastas and rices. And then just maybe swapping some of your fresh or frozen fruit for dried fruit.
Yeah, you can, hide veggies into sauces as well, like maybe cauliflower rice through a bolognese sauce.
A great way to do, even for the lower calorie approach then too, because you'll get more volume out of that sauce.
Yeah, that's true.
Without having to add, or even you might go 50-50 rice with cauliflower rice for somebody who's looking for the calorie control.
Yeah, totally. And they don't like just all cauliflower rice.
Or you've done in the past, 50-50 zucchini shredded in water with pasta, like spaghetti.
In water?
Yeah, like you quick boil, quick blanch. Do we blanch?
No, I don't actually.
Oh, okay.
I just do zoodles raw, because I find like the hot sauce on top kind of makes it soft enough. Yeah, 50-50 pasta zoodles.
So it's so easy to work veggies in and make them seem like they're also part of the spaghetti, or muschetti, as some would say.
Who says muschetti? Yeah, weirdo.
Working in movement.
Working in movement. So the important aspects of movement is your formal training sessions at the gym and daily steps, right? Maybe it might be your
daily activity.
Sorry?
Daily activity, let's call it. Not specifically steps, but rather just movement in general.
Yeah, but we capture that in steps.
That is true. If you're going to at least regulate and control it and understand how many steps you should do each day, then yes, for sure. My bad.
That's okay. Maybe we're just thinking about the same thing differently. So when I was doing jiu-jitsu, for example, I was doing bare minimum 3 weight training sessions a week plus 4 jiu-jitsu sessions a week. But now that I've put jiu-jitsu behind me, it's not something I think I've spoken about on this podcast. Maybe the next guestless podcast, I'll tell you why I've done that. Now that it's just weights training, it's 4 sessions a week for me plus 8,000 steps a day. That's my bare minimum. Dean, yours is different again.
10K, same.
10,000 steps a day and 5 training
sessions.
5
training sessions.
Right. So we're trying to work that into our life. So it doesn't feel like we've got this hectic life and then we're trying to work 8 or 10,000 steps in and 4, 5 training sessions in. So
yeah, like as a reference, like 10,000 steps, if you were to do this formally, would be roughly like 100 minutes of power walking. So like outside of daily activity, which also includes steps, you might have to do like 60 minutes of controlled walking to hit 10,000 steps, which it's not small, but it's also not crazy large.
Now, because both of us have worked movement into our day-to-day life, very rarely do we need to go for a walk to hit our minimum daily step target.
Which is a punish.
And okay, so maybe you can tell us, how do you walk steps into your day-to-day life?
So prior to contest prep, my average steps were between 3,000 and 7,000.
That's pathetic.
3,000 on the days that I didn't walk, Ruben. 7,000 on the days that I did. When prep came around and I really just wanted to keep food a little bit higher and maintain a little bit of a better activity approach, I've decided to walk to the gym instead of ride to the gym. So I used to ride my bike there. So that was some activity, but instead of doing that on the bike, which was not all that much faster, we live maybe kilometer and a half away from the gym. So I walk to and from the gym every day of the week now, no matter what, rain, hail, or shine. And that gets me around about
4,000?
4-ish thousand steps.
Yeah.
I walk Ruben at least once a day. You walk him once a day as well. So he gets a double walk per day. And that usually gets me anywhere between 2,000 and 4,000.
Yeah. And then you might do the grocery shopping, catch up with a friend for a walk.
Pick up the rest in miscellaneous.
Yeah. So what we're trying to get across here is it's not like at the end of a long day, we're like, oh, still 6,000 steps to do, got to go for a walk. We're walking to the gym, so it doesn't feel like a punish. It doesn't feel like a chore. We're walking as a means to an end. Or we need to walk the dog because Ruben requires his exercise, right?
I also require that mental break after doing a bout of work. So like that walk is typically some music or something like that. Or for those that watch, I do Q&A sometimes for people as well as on social media. So it's both productive in my output. It's worked into my life and it achieves my steps as well.
Yeah. If I ever do feel like I'm going to fall short on my steps, but I have planned to call a friend and see how she's doing with this or that, or maybe there's a book an audio book that I'm nearly at the end of that I want to listen to. I'll go for a walk while I chat to a girlfriend, or I'll when I say girlfriend, I'm cheating on you. I have a girlfriend. Isn't that weird? You wouldn't call your male friends your boyfriends?
No, my maid friend.
Did you? I spoke to my boyfriend. What?
Yeah.
Anyways, or while I'm listening to the end of an audiobook or a podcast that I really want to catch up on something, I'll go for a walk. And I really enjoy it. It's a non-distracting way to move my body so I can fully engage in the podcast or the book or my friend and get movement in at the same time. So it doesn't take any extra time to do it. We work it in. Yeah.
Another easy one is to work some additional steps in during your training session. I do that regularly, when I was trying to get to like more of like the 11,000, just to sort of buffer myself in case I was a little bit short on another day and I only did 9,000. Usually I'd just get up in between my sets. I've got at least 2 minutes between sets.
Walk around.
There's at least, 150 steps I can get in. If you do that, 10 to 15 sets, there's 1,500 steps done in a workout. And I don't even know what's happened. Even simple things like when I put weights away, I'll put 1 away at a time instead of 2 away at a time. So I have to do it twice a walk,
Yeah. I mean, that stuff is kind of the cherry on top of the cake because that's only going to get you a few hundred steps maybe.
Yeah, it all adds up though, sometimes when I'm like really conscious of, when I think about steps and activity for the means of maintaining a calorie output, if I just think, how can I unhack my current behaviors a little bit? Because most people are seeking efficiency, right? I think, how can I unhack it just a small percentage? And it honestly will pick me up 1,000 or 2,000 steps a day without me even thinking.
Okay.
But the moment that I let my body tell me what to do, or my mind, I lose 2,000. And I do get to the end of the day and I'm like, hey, Liz, I'm going to go for a 15-minute walk.
Maybe you can vacuum the house more often. That'll get you some steps.
No, we got a robot genie. We don't do that.
I think you missed the vacuuming this weekend, Dean.
That's not true.
Did you vacuum?
I vacuumed this weekend and I also vacuumed yesterday.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You know what happens, guys, is we live with a dirty person, Ruben and I, and it means
I'm
we
not
have to
dirty.
vacuum more free.
I'm an
She chops vegetables in the kitchen like Edward Scissorhands chops hair. It's fucking wild.
I'm a messy cook. That's it.
Yeah, and then we walk in and out of the kitchen all day long because I eat so much. The food goes everywhere.
Bite me. Okay.
You brought it up, not me.
Now, because I don't like to be criticized, we're going to move on.
Criticize.
I'd like to criticize you, but I don't like to be criticized in return. We'll summarize nutrition and movement. We'll move on to recovery. So we've got ways to manage a calorie control diet, eat sufficient protein, and get sufficient plant food in, fruit and veg. And then we've got movement. This is making sure you're getting your daily steps in. That can be however you want, walking with friends. You probably don't have to think about it too much if you have an active job, but if you have a desk job or you're sitting down for most of the day, maybe you do need to work some activity in. No.
And it's also likely going to be less, again, this is a smaller barrier to entry and less impactful on your life than thinking about doing 60 minutes or 20 minutes or 10 minutes of cardio. You know, don't formalize your output when you can just work it into your life and not have to think about it.
Yeah, I think that's called having an active lifestyle. Okay, so with recovery, there's lots of things we could talk about. Maybe like supplementation and float tanks and stress management, and it may or may not be relevant to you. But the one thing that is going to make the biggest difference that most people fuck up is adequate sleep. So that's what we're going to talk about. Athletes need more. So if maybe you're not a competitive athlete, maybe you are, but most of us who listen to this podcast, our audience seem to be people who train like athletes. Therefore, they need to recover like one. So I put 7+ down, but it might be maybe more like 9+ for you if your training output is really high, especially if your calorie consumption is low, if you're in a cut. Well, kind of always, isn't it? Because
it sucks though in a cut. It's so hard to sleep because you're so sympathetic.
Well, if you're, at the pointy end, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, at all times, it's definitely better to sleep more than it is to sleep less. That's non-deniable.
Non-deniable.
Yeah, I know. As soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, God damn it.
I love it. All right.
You just snorted though. So
I'm so okay with that. Not even embarrassed. Not a good laugh. Okay, so we're going to talk about ways that you can get a better sleep, and what seems to work for us and most of our clients is a good wind down routine, and also setting a regular sleep and wake cycle. Yeah,
I like the way Brandon put it on our podcast a couple of numbers back, which was fix your bookends.
Fix your bookends.
Yeah, so like start of the day and the end of the day. Like, what are you doing to set yourself up for success in that particular period? So in this instance, we're going to the end of the day.
Yep.
And a lot of people just fucking try and fall into bed and hope that it works.
Yeah, well, they stay stimulated through, screens or stimulating music or having stressful conversations right before bed, maybe watching thriller movies or something and then trying to get to sleep while their mind is racing.
And playing shoot 'em games.
Yeah, so a good wind down routine would be to kind of live in dim lighting, go turn some lights off, maybe leave a hallway light on, something like that. Avoid blue lights an hour or two before bed. You could avoid caffeine after
6 hours, ideally.
Yeah, ideally. You could also think about doing some relaxing activities. It might be journaling or meditating. And if that's too airy-fairy for you, give it a go anyways, because it really does work. Or read a book. Maybe have some tea and just some time to process without screens and conversations and Instagram. Just turn it off. No one's going to die if you turn Instagram off for a little while.
But yeah, the point here is to work better sleeping. We're trying to set up like routines in the 1 to 3 hours preceding intended sleep in order to make sure that the sleep is good quality here.
Yeah, so if you want to go to bed by 10 o'clock, start winding down by 8:30. Don't hit 10 o'clock and be like, all right, better turn the screen off and stop yelling at my missus and watching horror movies.
Yeah, like we have we are by no means like super boring routine, but we have a relatively fairly consistent routine at nighttime in that, we'll have dinner while we watch some telly. Don't know if I'm okay with saying that. But we don't even really watch. We watch the TV. We don't watch television shows. We always have a show that we pick, and we only ever watch one episode typically, or 40 minutes tops. And then usually after, and that's when we'd have dessert. And then usually, it's a wind down. You'll be in bed reading a book. I'll be showering and whatever else.
Else? What does that mean? What do you get up to in the shower?
Shaving my scrotum. No, I don't know. Or it'll be me, or I'll be finishing off my final meal of the day, because usually I like to leave that relatively late because that does make me sleep better because I'm hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'll spend the last 15 minutes sort of just chilling, nothing on screens.
Yep. Sometimes a book for you too.
A book for me as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have like a fairly consistent routine. So like as the night progresses and the show ends and my cream of rice ends, it's like my brain is saying it's shutdown time. It's shutdown time.
Yep.
And we just work that into our life so that we know that when we get to bed, then it's sleep time.
Yeah. And I cannot stress the importance of setting a similar sleep and wake time, even on Sundays, even on holidays.
Yeah.
Everything in moderation, even moderation, right? So like New Year's Eve, you don't have to be in bed by 10, give or take half an hour. But for the most part, bar the exceptions of a couple of times a year, like a big Saturday night out occasionally or something like that, we want to be getting into these routines so we feel sleepy when it's sleep time, we feel awake when it's awake time, and we can get up and be productive and prepare our food and be our best selves and train and recover and do all the things we want to do. We want to feel good while we do these things. We don't want to be dragging our feet. And we can only do that when we do pick at the low-hanging fruits and we are doing the important things.
Mm.
And so hopefully this podcast has outlined within the category of nutrition and movement and recovery what those important things are and how you can work it into your daily routine.
So just for clarification, the sleep time we're talking about like a plus or minus 30 minutes. So like if you say you wanted to be asleep at 8:30, you're going to try and be asleep.
Who wants to be asleep at 8:30?
No, but I'm just picking a number. Between 8 and 9. Okay, if you want to be asleep at 10, you're going to be asleep between 9:30 and 10:30, plus or minus. And I think you'll find that the research suggests that consistency is probably the most important thing out of anything.
Yeah.
Which
sucks if you're a shift worker.
Routine sounds kind of boring, but it also aligns with the body, which is the body is rhythmic. And rhythmic is just routine. So if we can align it all up, it works a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, I used to think that routine was really boring and I wanted every day to be exciting. But I think you can make every day exciting within the boundaries of routine. Routine makes things efficient. And you can make progress. No, routine doesn't have to be boring. Like every Tuesday we have tacos now that your prep is off. And I love that even though it's our routine, I look forward to tacos every single week. I also
think it makes our routine about eating more enjoyable also.
Because we've got stuff to look forward to.
We always have something to look forward to. So like part of working in for us is, we do work in tacos every Tuesday. And we do work in a dinner out every Saturday.
And for the record, I have 2 tacos and chips. That's way more than what my calories will allow unless I eat like a pigeon during the day, which I don't want to. So I just have the meat and veg portion of the taco, which I still really like. It's just
the moist bit.
I don't eat the bread. I ask for no cheese, all that stuff. And I have a good serve of chips as well. So I'm still eating my meat and veg for dinner with chips on the side, but I love it. Would I like to eat it with the bread? Probably. But do I want to give up the calories in other things during the day and be hungry all day? No.
This is the beauty. You choose your level of restraint.
Exactly. So it's not that it's right or wrong to have a high calorie meal and take it out later or whatever. It's just like, that's not what I want to do. And I know what my boundaries are and I figure out what my preferences are within those boundaries and do that.
Yeah. Routine doesn't have to be boring. Like I've said this many times. I know a lot of people in my position have said this many times. People are like, don't you get sick of kind of eating the same thing every day? I'm like, no, because I eat things I genuinely love.
Yeah. And then when you are sick of kiwis and you want to eat mandarins,
but it's the same thing. It's like, every day I have the same pretty much the food, give or take 5%. And then I have tacos. So now I'm like, cool, that's my different meal today.
Yeah.
Back on the thing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then free meal on Saturday.
You definitely have far more routine than I do with nutrition, in the sense that you do eat the same meals every day. Like know on Monday exactly all the meals you're going to eat until Monday next week. Whereas I know every meal will have meat and have veg. Maybe it'll be rice, maybe it'll be potatoes, maybe it'll be chicken, maybe it'll be beef. Like I don't know, but I still am eating within boundaries. I just have more freedom.
Yeah, you're choosing within groups essentially of like acceptable limits of protein, carbs, and fats.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas I'm just hitting the specifics because I don't want to have to think about it.
But we're different people. Like I'm just a gym rat. I'm just trying to look a bit above average. You're actually a competitive athlete.
I'm a gym gorilla.
I'm a rat. You're a gorilla. So you need to be more specific.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyways.
We tailor the lifestyle to the goal.
We do. I hope this has been helpful, everyone. Obviously, we're going to wrap up with a less shit tip and a would you rather and all that shiznit. But I should mention that if you do want to learn more, you want to know what your individual needs are for a cut, gain, or a maintain, you want to learn about hunger management, check out, I think I've put it live already. You can register, or you can reserve your spot in the next round of the Cut, Gain, Maintain e-course. So go to the website, the courses, and
probably put that in the links below.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show links, courses and memberships or something, and just follow the links from there. Wow, that was a mess.
You've done good on that.
Okay, Dean.
Less shit tip first.
Less shit tip.
The less shit tip, as you said, minimize the size of the barrier that you're trying to fucking hurdle in your life when you're trying to make a change. So work it in. That's the less shit tip. We just gave them 40 minutes of less shit tips. It's pretty straightforward. Find ways to intertwine
what you
small
need to
changes of what you need to do with things that you already do, so it doesn't feel like you're having to change your life.
You're already eating, make it protein and veg dominant.
Yeah.
You're already going to the gym, maybe park a kilometer away and walk there. You're already calling your friend or your mum. Just walk while you talk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
super simple.
Something worth sharing. Do you have something? I do if you don't.
Fire away.
Yeah?
No, you can. Yeah.
Okay. This is kind of yours. I don't know who thought of it. Dean loves white chocolate macadamia cookies from Coles. Woolies also sell them now too.
Yes,
I don't know who came up with it, but one of us put it in the air fryer. Was it me?
I think I may have.
Maybe I started putting them in the oven first, and when we got the new air fryer.
We've always rebaked them.
Yeah. Anyways, if you get already made cookies, it doesn't specifically have to be these macadamia white chocolate cookies. Put them in the oven.
But it should be.
Put them in the oven or the air fryer for a few minutes until they go golden brown. They're going to be really soft at first, but goddamn, they're good. Yeah, they kind of fall apart a bit when they're really, really.
So you're going to need like a spatula to slide underneath them to get them out.
Yeah.
Or just put them on baking paper if you can, and then pull the whole baking paper out of the oven or the air fryer if it's not on fire. And then let them sit for like 2 to 3 minutes so they get a little bit crispy on the outside. Then you'll be able to pick them up. And then you'll be able to devour.
They are so they're good without being rebaked, but once you rebake them,
much better.
Yeah, they're real good.
Yeah,
that's my something worth sharing, Dean.
That's worth sharing.
Now I've got a random question before would you rather question, unless you have one for me.
No, you're running the show today.
Am I? Okay. Do you have or have you had any really weird crushes that would be embarrassing?
Like on a person or?
Oh, like, did you ever have a crush on like Oprah Winfrey or?
No, I don't think so.
What about even as a kid?
I never really watched. I never did the cartoon crush, which some people have done.
Oh, I have.
I feel like I may have been moderately interested in Tomb Raider, Lara Croft.
Oh, she's pretty hot. I don't blame you.
Yeah. But no, I don't remember. I mean, I probably crush harder, but non-sexually on men than I do on women.
You actually do crush on men.
Like I crushed pretty hard on David Beckham as a soccer player.
That's embarrassing.
I've crushed pretty damn hard on Mark Wahlberg as an actor. And not my type, but Denzel Washington is by far my favorite actor of all time.
And there's absolutely no sexual connotation.
Zero.
No?
Yeah. There's zero movement.
I do think that everyone is a little bit gay though. Like, well, maybe because I think I'm 95% straight, but there's 5% of me that like probably would make out with a really hot girl.
I'm willing to admit when men are attractive or have sex appeal.
But do you find them
but
sexy?
They don't give me any kind of
nothing
sexual gratification.
Nothing?
Yeah. Like The Rock is a masculine man.
Okay. Good
read. Cool dude.
I would have to agree with you, Dean.
But he doesn't make the hairs on the back of my neck stand up.
Okay. All right. Dean straight, everyone. It has been confirmed. Okay, would you rather? Would you like to give me one?
No, you do these on a daily. You're so good at it.
Okay.
And as we've already established, I have no spontaneity, so I can't come up with one on the spot.
Well, I didn't. I actually thought of this one this morning.
Yeah.
Would you rather burp your farts or fart your sneezes?
Shall I ask questions?
All right, go on.
Can I taste the farts?
Yes.
Can other people smell the farts?
Yes. They're regular farts, but you're burping them.
Is the burp under my breath or is it loud?
Whatever the fart is.
Oh, Do I have control?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, okay.
Like the regular farts out of your mouth. You have control. Sometimes they're loud when you think they're not going to be.
A burp that burns your throat. Yeah, no idea.
But also,
but then, or I'm farting my burps.
You're farting your sneezes.
Sneezes. And the level of violence of those changes too, depending on the level of tickle.
Yeah.
Does my butthole tickle when I'm about to sneeze?
Exactly like a normal sneeze. Yeah. And the snot comes out.
Okay, that's risky. Oh, I didn't. Oh, see, and my initial thought is to say
You'll have to blow your nose.
I definitely want to fart my sneezes because I don't want to taste fart.
No.
I mean, yeah, I don't want to burp and taste fart, nor do I want people to think that's coming out of my mouth. But do you have to worry about cleaning your pants every time you sneeze?
It's so great. What a conundrum.
How often do I burp? And can I do it?
Burp? I'm asking you to burp your farts.
I know, but I'm saying
the question is how often do you fart?
No, I'm asking myself, how often do I burp?
Sneeze.
No, burp fart.
Okay.
How often do I currently burp?
Fart.
Normally fart. No. This is what I'm saying. Listen to me. How often do I burp versus how often do I fart?
Okay.
And which one's going to cause me more heartache?
Okay.
I think I'm going to burp farts.
Not sneeze. You do sneeze kind of frequently, though. You have allergies.
Not for ages. And anyone can tell you that most people fart more than people know.
So which one are you doing?
I'm going to burp farts.
But you fart so frequently. No, I'm not saying you're a particularly farty person, but people fart a lot.
No, but your burping frequency is what is maintained, not your farting frequency.
No, I would think that it's your farting frequency.
No.
Now your farts come out.
The only thing that changes is the type of burp, and it's a fart burp.
All right, that's not what I was imagining when I asked
Whereas
the question.
if you are fart sneezing, that's happening as frequently as you normally sneeze.
Well, look, Dean, that's not how I thought of the question, because I figured every time you need to fart, it now comes out of your mouth. Does that change things?
That changes things, and I would sneeze.
Okay.
Farts.
Okay.
Fart sneezes.
You would fart your sneezes.
Yeah. And can I?
Have we lost everyone?
Could you imagine?
Is anyone still listening?
Could you imagine covering your butt every time you went to sneeze?
Would people still say bless you?
And how would you can you clench hard enough to block it?
Oh, that's so great. Sometimes you pinch.
So but are we saying that we are farting as frequently as you would normally fart if you're burping farts?
Yes.
Or are you burping as frequently as you would burp, but it's now just a fart?
No, the other way around.
Oh.
Yeah, you're going with fart sneezes.
Yeah.
Okay, Dean. Oh, that's all my questions.
That was actually better that actually went further than I expected. Because I originally thought you definitely burp. No, definitely thought you would fart your sneezes.
We're moving on.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone's either asleep, hates us, or has turned this podcast off. So.
Well, if you made it this far, what would you do?
I would like everybody, actually, if you're listening on the podcasts or even YouTube, take a screenshot, tag us in it, and tell us fart, burp, or sneeze fart. Wait.
No, fart sneeze or burp fart.
Yeah. Fart sneeze or burp fart.
Comment below if you're on YouTube.
Yeah, comment below YouTube.
And screenshot the podcast and
tag us and write your answer on social media. Yeah. I love it. As always, subscribe, like, share, give us a review.
Thumbs up, 5 stars, all that jazz.
Yeah. All right, guys. I do hope this has been helpful.
Slip it in, guys.
Slip it in.
And we're going to slip on out.
We are. All right.
Yeah.
Bye.